second video in 2 days. I'm not sure that's happened before, and I'm not sure it's a good thing, but bear with me. I want to talk about the prize, our podcast, and Patreon. Thank you. The Republic of Consciousness Prize for Small Presses is moving into its third year. We've had about 40 submissions, and what will comprise the long list is getting very clogged. I think this is definitely the strongest year for submissions. There are at least 5 books so far, which I can't believe aren't going to be the winner. Isn't going to be the winner. One of those 5 isn't going to be the winner, which is a bit scary. We have a wonderful judging panel, which I'll talk about later. But the point is that the prize always needs support. So what we've done is we've created a podcast, so the prize is more present throughout the year rather than just the kind of long list or winner event, which happens at the beginning of will happen at the beginning of next year. The podcast will have essentially will focus on small presses. And we will be reviewing small presses. We will have interviews and readings, and we will focus on the larger small presses and startups. Hopefully, in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be talking to Splice, who are a Birmingham small press startup who have only published 2 books of short stories and are about to publish their first novel in the middle of this month, which I can say, and I'll talk about later, or at another point, is one of the best debuts I've ever read. And so the idea is that the prize is supported by the podcast throughout the year, and what we need is for the podcast and by extension the prize to be supported by patrons via Patreon. And if you don't know, Patreon is a platform that allows people to give money on a monthly basis to support artists and creative initiatives, of which we are one. The levels of support start from it's in American dollars. The levels of support start very low at $2 a month, for which you just get the glorious feeling of supporting us, up to something like $20 a month, where you receive the entire long list of the prize, which will be at least 13 books. So that's a good thing. We will start early next year a final tier, which is called Book of the Month, where we essentially select, review and deliver a reading of a small press novel or book of short stories or translated fiction, and that goes out to all of our Patreons who subscribe to that certain tier. We haven't quite finalised the details, but that will happen at the beginning of the year. But suffice to say, if you want to support the prize and to a degree the podcast, most of the money goes into the prize fund. Go to Patreon and have a look. We need all the support we can get to keep this thing live. And there will be a podcast once a month with bits in between in the next couple of weeks. So tomorrow I'm interviewing Jean Frémont, who's an established French writer who's just published his first book translated into English, which is a small gem stroke miracle of a book. I really deeply love it. We'll talk about that. I'm talking to him and his translator. The following week, I'm talking to Olga, and I can never remember, Tokarczuk, winner of the Man Booker International Prize this year, about her new book. then 2 weeks' time I'm going to be speaking to the most incredible writer of the early 20th century, Matthias Ennar, who wrote Zone and Compass and has his new novel out. So these are three really important writers, and I have exclusive access to ask them the difficult questions, not the where do you get your ideas from kind of questions. So they will go on the podcast. So hopefully it will be a really rich and an engaging experience. So that's me on the prize this year. You'll hear more about that. The podcast, I'm about to find a way of uploading onto YouTube so you can hear it. Please visit Patreon and see what you can do if you want to publish, if you want to support small presses. Thank you very much.